On a day like today, in 1881 in Loughborough, something extraordinary happened.
A bell was cast so large and so ambitious and so unlike any other, it became a national symbol.
This is Great Paul, the largest church bell ever made in the UK. To cast Great Paul, Taylor needed 3 furnaces, one of which was built especially for the task. Nearly 20 tonnes of bell metal were melted, a process that took 8.5 hours of continuous firing. And finally, at 10:30 at night, the pour began. Once Great Paul had been cast, it was deliberately left untuned, sounding naturally at the note of E flat, a rare decision for a bell of this importance. When it was completed, the bell weighed an astonishing 16 tonnes, 1,400 weight, 2 quarters and 19 pounds, roughly the same weight as a blue whale. During Christmas week of 1881, visitors flocked to the Foundry to catch a glimpse of the bell, a true Victorian spectacle.
Can you imagine what it would have been like to come here in the Victorian era, when TV and internet hadn't even been invented yet? And here we are trying to compete for viewers when this would have been the most exciting thing that's ever happened in Loughborough in years. Everyone would have flocked to this foundry to see this brand new, humongous bell.
But the journey was only just the beginning. Transporting Great Paul from Loughborough to London took 2 weeks, hauled by steam traction engines across roads never designed for such weight. At 8 a.m. on the 22nd of May, 1882, Great Paul finally arrived at its home, St Paul's Cathedral, where it was installed in the southwest tower.
Here's a question. How would they make Great Paul today? Let's find out. I've already been to see these boys this morning and they're in a particularly silly, annoying mood. So let's just see how this interview goes. How you feeling, boys? You bit cold? What are you doing?
None
Nunya?
Yeah.
What's nunya?
You're bit none your business. No, I'm setting headstocks at the minute because I am a little bit broken. So I don't know why I'm getting all excited like I've finished. I've not. I've still got to put another boss on.
What does it mean by setting headstocks?
So we get sorry, that took a real moment to think then. We get given so like, oh my god, how do I explain this?
Fittings for the bells.
Yeah.
Are headstocks. The headstocks have different boss settings.
And the headstocks have different boss settings depending on the size of the bell. No, it's just because I was concentrating, all right? I can't do 2 things at once.
So if you were to cast a 16-ton
You
bell,
probably want to allow a couple of ton just on the bell for tuning, if you were going to tune it. You would then have your extras, so you run a system, your pouring bush, which would be a lot. I'd say there's probably a ton in the pouring bush. So there's 17, there's 18 ton.
Okay, so you've got 18 tons of metal to do a
plus
cast.
your losses.
How would you do it?
What do you mean? How would I do it?
How would you do it?
Well, you'd melt it, obviously.
Well, what I mean is, would you have to have more furnaces?
Oh, so the building was made originally with 4. We didn't, obviously back in the day, they didn't have these beautiful tilted Morgan furnaces. They had what we call wall furnaces. So the archways in the wall, they can all hold multiple amounts of metal, and they're all actually phenomenally efficient. So we've got one that still currently works, and it's been converted to diesel. I'm sure that can hold. I've used it for 8 ton. So 1 furnace, you're already a good portion of the way there. We've got 2 more. Well, yeah, there would have been 3. And they can each hold a little bit more. So I think that one can hold like 8, 9 ton. That one can hold like 5 or 6 ton. The far one at the end, that can hold like 11 ton. And then the little arch behind this furnace, that used to be able to hold, I think, 4 or 5, something like that. So we definitely got the capacity. It would just mean that all three furnaces would need reconditioning. The internals would need looking at, so like maybe relining, the chimneys being swept and looked at, and then we'd have to have a diesel injection system fitted to them all. So if you ever visit and you look in the furnace gallery, you can see how one looked, like how the one that's got all the bits hanging off the back of it. That's the one that we can use for like now, and it's an absolute monster when it goes. Like when they originally drilled Great Paul, they used a hand ratchet drill, because they didn't have a machine big enough to put it on.
That's wild.
Mental.
Gotta have to dig a pretty big hole as well.
Oh, we'd have to gut, the whole shop would have to be gutted. So originally, when it was made, there used to be a pit out the other side of this wall that was like 10 meters squared and many meters deep. And the whole mold, inside, outside, everything would all be made in that pit. And they used to have like huge steel girders that they could partition off either side. So if one team was making the core, one team was making the case, they could put steel like partitions in, and then they had coal or coke braziers in each corner, and they'd get those lit, and then that was the heating system. Like it never went in the drying oven, and I don't think it ever actually went in this shop because it was just too massive. So if we were to have to dig a pit for it in here, well, I don't think we'd actually be able to, because it was originally made outside, and then the square pockets in the wall used to have like a big steel frame with a massive like 25-30 ton ladle sat in it. And the genius with that is that was the ladle that actually poured into the bell, but it then left the crane in here free, so that all these furnaces could be tapped whenever the metal was ready. Tap one, pour it into a ladle, bring it out, pour it into the big ladle. The big ladle could then start pouring the bell while this crane was free to keep tapping the furnaces. So you never had to worry about moving all of that metal at once. You could move it in parts, and so long as you timed it all right, that ladle never ran dry, you'd never short run the bell.
Wow.
So, like, it would need some crazy logistics.
So does that mean that you would have to make it outside then?
We could do a lot of the basics, but then actual casting would need to be like a serious like sit down, and we'd have to meticulously plan and work out every little detail, like what the clamps can hold, to like internal temperatures of everything, how big the case would be, you know, like, because we've got the original case that made it, and we've got the core plate, but they're a massive display in the local park.
So you'd have to get those from the park
Yeah,
as well.
so we'd have to borrow it from them. You know, that in itself is monstrous. So,
how long then would it take to go from moulding to preparing it all with the lettering on the case to casting it?
If I was to put like a gun to my head, answer the question now, I'd probably say about 6 months. I know in the 80s when they did the Malta Siege bell, that was 8'8". And when they dried the core, it lost 1.3 ton of water. That's how much moisture came out of it. And that was for 8'8". This is double the size. So you'd be thinking, yeah, you'd probably be looking at maybe like two ton of moisture to get out of it. And when we've worked on a 6'9" bell, and that was what, 2-3 weeks to make just the core. Case there'd probably be a month's worth of moulding in the case. Mullying would probably be a week. Digging out all the cracks, backfilling it, getting it set up as well. The sheer size of the case, getting the strickle in and out of it, getting the strickle set. This strickle made a 6'9" bell. So that's the strickle for a 5-ton bell. So this is 3 times the size. This is 3 times the weight of that. Because these are still all set for coke firing, normally you would, under these boards, there's probably a 15-foot drop that would be full of like, that you can get completely underneath all of these furnaces. And this is where they'd have the coal chute, so they'd pour the coal in here, and it'd be all, like sort of all in here would just be absolute carnage. And you'd shovel a load of coal onto the fire hole door, which is there. So you'd shovel that as much as you can. Your grate and everything would be on this part. You'd then come out and round. You'd go down into the pit. You'd rake underneath the fire, to make sure all the slag and the clinker and everything else, all the non-combustibles fall out. By the time you've done that and you come back up and you walk back round, you open the door and all the coal's gone. It's burnt. So then it's like shovel it all back in, go again, shut the door, come back round, and you're just constantly doing that. And then that's your viewing hole. So this would normally, obviously it's like well rusted now, but that would open so you could have a look in and see what it's doing. Because obviously that's why they've got really tall chimneys, because that's the draft, that's what pulls the heat over the metal and melts and like helps it melt. Whereas now we've got this system. So these are two air injectors that you can control from down here. These are connected to that big fan there. There's a fuel line inlet against the wall in there, and then the fuel line connects to these little brass bits on here, and it's basically the same as how we use the Morgan furnaces in the big shop. You open the air valve, and then so that then allows air to get pulled in through into your combustion chamber and through into the furnace. You then open your fuel valve. That allows fuel in, combines. You have to basically stand here with a blowtorch until eventually it lights, and it's terrifying when it does it, because it just boom, and then everything kind of, you feel like the whole building come alive. It's amazing. So you'll let one run first, let it warm up, there's like a little warming fire, and then after sort of 25-30 minutes, you can slowly increase the air on this valve, and then you go to number 2 valve, and you open that one, get that one burning as well, and then it's a constant. So last time I used this, we had 3 people to run this. There was me stood at the controls, there was someone stood at the door, and then there was someone in the street. And their signal, they were basically watching the chimney. And as I played with it and messed with the fuel and air ratios, I would get no smoke, bit of smoke, lots of smoke. And obviously lots of smoke means combustion's poor. A little bit of smoke, you know, it kind of became like sort of picking a new pope. Like at one point it got that hot that it was just constantly producing white smoke. We couldn't do anything about it. But yeah, so it would need all 3 of us to be like, yeah, burning good. And then and when you're actually running it, there's at least 30-second delay. So you have the air valve fully open, and literally just that as a movement you have to then just stand and sort of wait, and then you'd get and oh no, and then you have to like right put it back, sort of thing.
Come on then.
I'm coming.
Let's go back to walk. Back to walk. Back to walk.
I'm in control of the gimbal.
It looks different. Do they always have this bit on them?
Yeah.
Okay.
May just casually pretending like she does know what we do. Where'd you get your hat from?
It was a Christmas present.
I like it. Nice.
Made in Nepal.
Oh wow.
Very, very warm.
Nice.
Can't go wrong.
Has that been up Everest then?
Yes.
Has that actually?
No.
Oh. I was going to say, that's roll through if it has. Look at it. Yeah, you scrape that mould.
I briefly mentioned this earlier, but Great Paul was remarkably in tune with itself for a maiden bell. But I'm interested to know what would happen now if that bell was produced here. Would it be tuned? Probably. Let's go talk to Gerda, he knows more than I do.
16-ton bell, we've got a machine across the road we can tune. The machine has been fastened into the wall, massive big thick wall. So we can do 16-ton, even 20-ton, not a problem at all. Yes, yeah, we can take microphone, laptop, and then give a good big bang and see where the how much metal in there, how much metal to come off, in which area, whatever. But we can do it, no doubt about it. Look at this machine, strong, and it built it into the wall. And the tool post is massive. It's 3-meter long tool post to get in the bell right down to the floor, up to the top. If it's 16-ton bell, we can do it. We can get the height as well to move all the slides up to tune any size bell.
So there we have it. Producing great pool today would require old wall furnaces and lathes to come out of retirement, but it could be done. Thanks for watching, folks, and we'll see you again soon.